I still remember the exact moment as if it were pressed into my memory with a hot iron. The aroma of biryani floated between us, thick with cardamom and cloves, and the ceiling fan hummed lazily above the dining table we had used for more than 20 years. Ariba sat across from me, her posture straight, her fingers lightly touching the edge of her plate. She looked calm, composed, too composed. Then she lifted her eyes and locked them with mine. "Dad," she said evenly, "90% of your retirement is for the house. Don't forget." For a second, I thought I had misheard her. I even smiled, waiting for the punchline that never came. But she didn't smile back. Her gaze didn't waver. "What house?" I asked, trying to keep my tone light. "Our house," she replied. "The renovation. The extension. You promised we'd finally do it once you retired." I had mentioned improvements in passing, new paint, maybe fixing the roof tiles. I never imagined she had calculated percentages in her head. 90%. That was nearly everything I had saved in 35 years of working at the bank. Every early morning, every overtime shift, every declined vacation invitation. The room felt smaller suddenly. Even Hamza, who usually filled silences with jokes, remained quiet. I noticed the ticking clock on the wall for the first time that evening. Tick, tick, tick. It sounded like a countdown. After dinner, I washed my hands slowly at the sink, staring at my reflection in the small mirror above it. Retirement had been a distant shore for most of my life. Now it was only months away. I had imagined quiet mornings with tea in the courtyard, perhaps a small business to keep myself busy, maybe a trip to the northern valleys I had postponed for decades. Simple dreams. Modest dreams. But somewhere along the way, my retirement had become a budget line in someone else's plan. That night, sleep refused to come. I lay on my back, staring at the faint cracks in the ceiling. I remembered the first day we moved into this house, Ariba only 5 years old, running from room to room, claiming spaces as her own. The walls were bare then. The floors plain cement. Everything we added over the years carried a story. Was it really outdated? Or had I simply grown attached? Her words replayed in my mind. "Don't forget." As if it was already decided. As if my role now was only to remember my obligation. Morning came too quickly. I felt older than I had the day before. I started working at 22, fresh out of university with iron shirts and big responsibilities. My father had passed early, leaving me the eldest son with a family to support. I never complained. Providing became my identity. My pride. Every bonus I earned went towards school fees. When Ariba wanted extra design classes, I paid without hesitation. When Hamza needed a laptop, I bought the best one I could afford. We skipped vacations, drove the same car for 15 years, postponed luxuries that other families considered normal. I told myself it would all be worth it when my children stood tall on their own. Now Ariba stood tall indeed, confident, educated, ambitious. She spoke about property value, modern aesthetics, open concept living. She saw the house not as a home, but as a project waiting to evolve. She wasn't wrong. The paint was fading. The wiring was old. The tiles had cracks that spidered quietly across the floor. But she didn't see what I saw. She didn't see her mother sitting by the window sewing curtains. She didn't hear the echoes of birthday laughter embedded in these walls. She didn't feel the weight of memory stitched into every corner. A week later, she brought blueprints home. Large sheets rolled under her arm, excitement glowing on her face. "Dad, you have to see this." She spread them across the dining table, pushing aside the fruit bowl. Lines, angles, measurements. She explained everything with the passion of an architect presenting a masterpiece. Glass balcony. Extended living room. Second floor with rental potential. "It will triple the property value," she said confidently. "And the cost?" I asked. She hesitated, just slightly. "Almost your full retirement fund. But think long term. It's an investment." Investment. I had invested my entire life in stability, security, education. Love. Was it selfish to want the reward of that investment for myself now? Later that night, Hamza knocked softly on my bedroom door. "Abu, can I come in?" He sat at the edge of my bed, hands clasped. "You don't have to do this," he said gently. She thinks it's practical, I replied. It's your money, he said. You earned it. Such simple words, yet they carried a truth I had forgotten to claim. Somewhere between being a provider and being a father, I had forgotten I was also a man with his own future. The next morning, I walked slowly through every room of the house. I touched the wall where we had marked the children's heights each year. I stood in the kitchen doorway, remembering my wife's laughter. I ran my fingers along the wooden staircase I had repaired myself one humid summer afternoon. This house wasn't outdated. It was alive. Each crack told a story. Each stain held a memory. Could marble floors replace that? Could glass railings preserve history? That evening, I asked Ariba to sit with me in the courtyard. Why do you want this so badly? I asked quietly. She crossed her arms at first, defensive. Because we deserve better. You worked your whole life. Don't you want something impressive? I want peace, I said. She blinked, surprised. I thought this would make you proud, she whispered. I am proud, I replied gently. But retirement isn't another construction project. It's the first time in my life I get to breathe without calculating expenses. Her eyes softened. Later that night, she came back. I'm scared, she admitted. Everyone is upgrading. Everyone is moving ahead. I don't want us to fall behind. There it was. Not greed. Not entitlement. Fear. I smiled. We're not behind. We're just not running the same race. Weeks later, I made a decision. We would renovate modestly, fix what truly needed fixing. Fresh paint. Safe wiring. Nothing extravagant. And with the rest of my savings, I opened a small reading center in my late wife's memory. A place for children who couldn't afford tutoring. A quiet room filled with books, desks, and hope. When I told Ariba, she stared at me for a long time. Then she nodded slowly. That's beautiful, Dad. She began volunteering there, designing the layout, painting the walls herself. She saw children whose families had far less than we did. She saw how much difference small investments could make. One evening she came home and sat beside me. I was wrong about the 90%, she said quietly. You were thinking about the future, I replied. But I forgot to think about yours, she said. On my retirement day, my colleagues gave speeches and gifts. But the real gift came at dinner. Ariba raised her glass. To my father, she said, voice steady but emotional. Who taught me that wealth isn't what we build, it's what we protect. She looked at me again, just like that first night. But this time, she smiled. Don't worry, Dad, she said softly. Your retirement is yours. And as I looked around the familiar walls of my old, imperfect, beautiful house, I realized something profound. The greatest inheritance I could ever leave my children was not property. It was perspective.